TwinAquarius here again. I want to talk about justice. Um, because I was just talking about truth and beauty. But I also want to talk about, I feel like something else that's extremely important I noticed over time is the great injustices in the world that have been going on for such a long time. Um, being a black woman, I definitely know about injustices from our community, but the injustice isn't just with the black community. It's with the whole world. It's with every country on earth. And Americans and Europeans have been great perpetrators of injustices all over the world. But it ties into the hate culture as well, because we shouldn't hate it creates the hate culture because, like, for example, like with black people, like we have been greatly oppressed for thousands of years, not only by Europeans but by the Arabs as well. And now it seems China is now joining in on that game as well. And we and the more black folks are speaking up about it, the more it's becoming even though black folks have been speaking about it, of course, but it's becoming an issue now because it's becoming hard to handle coherently, because now there's so many mixed ideologies online, because there's so many organizations that are trying to step up and do justice for each other, but because we're inside this bigger institution that suppresses all other reforms because they don't want to lose their own personal powers, it's just becoming even more of an issue. It's becoming so much more pertinent now, which is why, there's so many protests around the world. People are truly sick and tired of the injustice. And Americans a lot of Americans playing ignorant about it. But we have to start stepping up for justice. Like, honestly. Like, social justice warriors, they feel they're doing it for self-righteous reasons in a lot of cases. That's the problem with a lot of people. They want to be self-righteous about it. They're not protesting for the right reasons. Their channel of love and truth isn't open. So they're doing it out of hate, out of spite, out of resentment. All these negative emotions that when you do it out of negative emotion, it doesn't create the result that it needs to be created. There's so few people out there doing it out of genuine good hearts that it just has no real effect in the long term. Like, especially with internet culture now, there's a lot of these. I mean, activism through memes is a nice start, but we really have to start taking some true action in, like, I mentioned this before, I guess, to myself in a video that didn't get uploaded, but I just realized that like there's people who are activists, but they aren't but they're just protesters. They aren't doing anything particular. So, I mean, I consider myself an activist in some way, I suppose. I have opinions about things, obviously. I just think the way people are going about things is just not helpful, because protesting doesn't do anything. I think it was Nietzsche, who was saying that protesters are just, was it Nietzsche? Yeah, I think so. It's not something he would say. Are just people who want to shout but they don't get things done. It doesn't get anything done to shout in the street, you know. You have to actually get in. You have to get into the thing and actually do the work. Um, I I felt there was a lack of spirituality in the world, and I'm a spiritual person, so I decided I'm going to become actively more spiritual and take up a role where I can help people be more spiritual. You know, my activism is my action in doing things and trying to help in the process. Even though I'm not just one person doing it, obviously. Look online, there's plenty of spiritual people online trying to spread the good word. But like environmentalists, activists, like we're concerned about I'm very concerned about like our national parks and everything and the funding that they get. But where are the people, all the people who are concerned about these things aren't getting the jobs as park rangers and as things in the environmental field, in ecology, and in biology as they should, because they'd rather protest like that does anything, and they wasted their college years on something useless that doesn't even help in that process, or they're not opening up organizations that are actually helping in these fields. Like that kid who came, the kid who came up with the device to clean up the oceans, like that guy. Like I don't know I mean what his schooling was like, but he was 19 when he came up with that idea. So that's how, but that's the way we should be thinking more um like the journalists online, you know, like Tim Pool and Luke and all these other people who report news that the mainstream media doesn't report. Like they're taking action into their own hands, you know, and they're reporting on things that they feel are important that the mainstream media isn't reporting on. And that's vitally important as well. I'm glad they're doing this kind of work, especially Luke. Luke's been on it forever. Uh, and Tim is starting his own Subverse channel as well. You know, like they're doing things that they like they're putting their money where their mouth is, basically, because they're doing what they are talking about. You know, their activism is in the action. People who complain about government, you know, like the reason senators and Congress have been in office for so long is because no one else is running against them and no one's doing good campaign against them. Ocasio-Cortez is, I found out recently that she won that science competition. She's a freaking genius. I actually have a lot more respect for her after reading a little bit more about her. So much more respect for her. Even though sometimes her opinions are kind of shaky, but I don't know. Well, who knows? My opinions are probably kind of shaky sometimes too. We all have shaky opinions, and we should not be shaming each other over opinions either. Like, come on. But Ocasio-Cortez, I really commend her for being the youngest congresswoman, because she recognizes that something is greatly wrong with the institution, and she busted her butt to get elected. And more young people should be following in that footstep, and or people who are concerned about politics in this way should follow in that footsteps and follow in that path of becoming a grassroots politician, basically, and getting down to brass tacks and really talking to people and getting to know the issues and getting into a position where you can actually make some changes. But we have to worry about the influence as well. I mean, it's just the influence of all the others around her. You know, she's still a young mind like the rest, like like we are, and these older, more influential people can influence the ideas, or choke it out, or do whatever, because they've been in the game for 40 years. They know how to manipulate. So we have to, more young people need to actually get active and become active in the fields that they're protesting about. Like instead of protesting, do the work. Like I guess it's kind of boomerish to say, but like you kind of do have to pull yourself up and get in there. You gotta get in the arena to fight. You can't fight from outside the arena. Like even Jordan Peterson is a good example as well in this regard. He's inspired so many people to start speaking out about things they feel are unjust. Even though he's like an old head, whatever, he's kind of a boomer himself, but he's been part of he's been quiet in his own field, whatever, not making much noise until he spoke out against, that bill C-16, when he was like, he read it, and he understood the language of it, and he was like, he did a proper protest of it where he spoke honestly his opinion about it, and he pointed out all the flaws within it. And it wasn't about, at this point, if we understand that it wasn't about the transgender issue, it was about the part being compelled speech. Like, even if someone's, like, honestly, like, if someone's opinion is shitty, like we already recognize that we cancel people for their shitty opinions. Like, we don't have to cancel people, we can just ignore them, like any other nonsense person, whatever. But it's not justice to, like, you can't serve justice on the streets. Basically, you have to get into the arena, and you have to pick up the sword and fight along, or fight in the on the field where this fight is taking place. For me, in the spiritual arena, like, there's a lot of new agey people out here, or there have been a lot of new age talkers and stuff like that. And even though they do influence people, they're selling secrets, that are free, essentially. And it's making it look bad for people who are truly light workers like me and others, who feel like the psychic field basically is getting too crowded, and there's a lot of people who are just dabbling in and for a profit. And it concerns me a lot, because materialism and spiritualism don't go together. It's like oil and water, I suppose, and people are using pretty words to emulsify it, or they're playing with people who are ignorant to what it's really about, or just preying on people who really need help, and probably causing a lot more damage that way. Like, I'm really genuinely about helping people, and I don't believe in like I can't get myself wrapped around the idea of monetizing myself. I mean, I would like to make money doing this, but at the same time, I'm not doing it for money. Basically, that's how, like, it's a difference between doing something for money and making money for doing something that you actually want to do. That's why, like, even online, like, we see, there's so many Let's Players as well. There's people who play video games online because and stream because it makes money, but not because they have fun doing it. You know, there's some people who like, obviously it comes out all the time that people who genuinely don't enjoy doing the online, like, streaming and stuff like that, but they do it because it makes them money. You know, and they could be doing something else, or they could be doing something that's more closer to what they would like to do, but they gotten comfortable in making money instead of doing what they want to do. They've let materialism take over their heart. But that's an injustice to themselves in that form. Back to social justice I was getting at. But yeah, social justice. Like, I feel like I'm a true social justice warrior in this sense, because I understand that, you know, I understand people. I've been talking to people for a long time, and you know, you can't label someone based off how you met them, obviously, because, you know, they do that to us, so we can't do it to them. And there's no way to find peace in you can't find peace from that perspective of trying to blame or shame others or any of those things. Like, it has to come from a place of compassion, essentially. So you have to start there. And, you know, innocent to proven guilty, right? So we can't start from this place of hate and expect it to work out. Like, the reason, like, because for one thing, it keeps the division there always. It can never be peace if there's always resentment. You know, it has to be, you can't, it's not allowing the redemption to happen because you're holding on to resentment. And even that's really, really hard, and I understand that, but we have to come, like, if we genuinely want things to be better, we have to be better. We have to find peace. So, like, if we want we want America to apologize first for what they've done. But also in doing that, for America, for the Eurocentric Western civilization, what do you want to call it, to be redemptive, we have to allow the redemption to happen. If they ask for, when, I would hope so, I say this, when they ask for forgiveness, we allow the forgiveness to come. We allow them to be forgiven. It's gonna be touchy for a lot of people, but, you know, I'm not saying it's the only way that can prevent it from happening again. Because if we, like, I'm gonna take it real deep. So evolution seems to say that the albinos in Africa and those in whatever who were lighter just moved up north, whatever. So maybe they were, and also albinos still kind of persecuted in Africa. So there's this imprint on white people's DNA of this rejection out of Africa, and now this, in this sense. So it's come back. It's really like I hate to say it, it's kind of a karmic effect of the white people went and made themselves great and barbaric and powerful, and came back down on the African peoples and decided that because they were excluded to the mountains or to the north, basically, that they were going to come back and take over the whole world. It's kind of like this Esau coming back to bite us in the ass for what was done to him, you know? So it's like the brothers have to forgive each other, basically. the father and the son have to forgive each other. Yeah, that's the most simplest way I can put that. You know, like these, yeah, the mother and the daughter have to forgive each other, and the mother, it's forgiveness all around, because if we don't open up the channels for truth and love, justice won't come. Justice won't balance things out. Justice will, like, without allowing the balance to come, because we have to, I'm not saying we have to weigh each other's crimes and whatever like that, but we have to let go of some things, or they have to let go of a lot of things actually, and we have to take that action. We have to take that step into forgiveness and mercy. You know, even, like I say, no mercy for traitors. And I kind of still feel that way. But at the same time, like, I feel like even Jesus would have forgave Judas, you know? But Jesus was perfect, so whatever. But if we want to be like Christ, and if we believe that Christ would do that, even he would forgive his ultimate betrayer, we should probably do the same. And it would just free us from that pain. It would free him from that pain as well. Because imagine you, like, I feel this myself, because I mean, I'm not a perfect person. I've done some terrible things to some people, particularly, you know, my husband, I'll say. And it's painful not to be forgiven for things. It really, truly is, because it puts this stain on your heart that you're, and you wouldn't, and it just, it's horrible to feel that way. It's horrible to feel like you're not good enough for someone that you care about. And even though that you recognize that you were wrong, and you feel like you're due for justice, you know, like you're willing to take the stand, and you're willing to be tried for your justice, and you're willing to, you know, make amends, basically. I feel like when you're able to do that, I feel that's worthy of forgiveness. You know, I feel like if someone sincerely apologizes, and they're fully redemptive, and they fully feel this way, that you should forgive them. Because I've forgiven some people who did some terrible things, you know, and I'm still willing to do that to anybody. Because if I could forgive the person who did one of the worst things to me because they asked for forgiveness openly and honestly, I just feel like that's able to be done for, because we're all human beings, we're all flawed. But as long as we can recognize that in ourselves, that shouldn't be held over each other's heads, that we're flawed individuals. Because you wouldn't want done to yourself, especially if you have felt that way before. You don't want to feel like a criminal, basically. But you just have to allow justice to be done. And if the justice has been done and dealt with, then forgiveness has to be allowed. Like, there's that case where that the judge hugged that white lady who shot that black dude. She shouldn't have done that, honestly. But I understand the message she was trying to send though, but that just wasn't the way to do that. That was not the way to do that. But justice is about allowing, is finding a balance in things, and rebalancing it. It's taking some things off the scales, you know, and letting it go, and accepting some things. It's accepting things have happened, and also acknowledging it for the future so it doesn't happen again. Because now we have the weight of it. Now we know the weight of it. We won't allow the weight back on. We can keep things balanced. And we can always, we can, it is, yeah. So yeah, so that's my piece on justice, I suppose.